Welcome to Sounding Board, a production of Seroptimist International of Novato, whose mission it is to improve the lives of women and girls through programs leading to social and economic empowerment, both globally and locally. Our show today is about capping and the underground economy in insurance fraud. Our guests today are Captain John Arguello and Deputy DA Nicole Pantaleo. I'm Freda Kaplan. So, Captain, let's start with you. Please explain what capping means and, well, first, where you work and what you do there.
Freda, thank you so much for inviting me to come down and speak to you about insurance fraud. I'm with the State of California Department of Insurance Fraud Division. I work out of the Golden Gate Regional Office, which oversees 11 of the Bay Area counties here in the state of California. I am currently a captain. We have a team of four teams. Basically, we investigate auto cases, we investigate workers' comp fraud, and premium fraud cases, medical and legal provider fraud cases.
Can you explain to us what capping means?
Absolutely. Capping is something that I don't think most of the general public is aware of, but if you hear the word ambulance chaser, I think most people understand what an ambulance chaser is.
That's right.
A capper is essentially an ambulance chaser, and capper is someone who sells cases normally to medical providers and to legal providers for a fee. And what they will do is they will solicit people who've been involved in collisions or any sort of injuries and refer that person to go to a medical provider or to a legal provider for representation.
So that's how they operate.
Exactly.
So it's illegal to get a kickback for referral?
Yes, it is. There's a business and professions code and also an insurance code, which basically makes it illegal to refer to a law office or to a medical provider for any sort of compensation, or for the attorney or for the chiropractor or medical practitioner to pay for referral of patients. So it is a crime. Most people don't know that, but it is.
So what's the harm of capping?
Well, to put it, I guess, fundamentally, so most people would think that paying for a referral fee is no big deal, that it causes no harm. And in most cases, it does not. But for those few individuals, those few percentages of medical and legal providers that are paying for referral fees, it gives the possibility or the potential to corrupt the case process or the claim process. And by that I mean, you no longer are concerned about the individual. You are now concerned about the case. It's how much money can I make out of this case. So I'm not so much concerned, let's say, about the care of the patient. So if Nicole was injured in an accident and I'm doing volumes and volumes of referrals, I'm not concerned about her well-being. I'm concerned about how much money I can make out of this case. And the more money I can make for these referrals, the higher volume of referrals I will make to the law office and to the medical office. And so again, it's almost the idea that you take a perfectly legal process, because there's nothing wrong with legal representation or seeking medical treatment, but once you involve the almighty dollar, and now the concern is how much money you can make out of an insurance claim, that's where there's the possibility for a criminal activity to take place.
So this could be dangerous in a medical office.
Absolutely, because what we see, once a capper starts to refer to, let's say, a medical office, and again, the idea is to make as much money as you can, the capper is not so much concerned about the individual. What they're concerned about is how much of a buildup you can have. And by that I mean, how many visits can you make to the medical office? The more visits, the more money. And the more visits that you attend, you might be receiving treatments that you do not need. You might receive, let's say, ultrasound treatments or an MRI or adjustments, things that you don't require medically, but because it's going to bolster the value of your claim, the capper is going to insist that you continue to seek out medical treatment.
So how can consumers protect themselves?
Well, what we see in the industry is if you're involved in a collision, whether it's an auto accident or a slip and fall at a grocery store, and you're contacted at your home or your cell phone number, and someone says, I'm someone representing a marketing company, and I received your information and I'd like to refer you to a medical practitioner, to a law office, that right there should be your first indicator. How did this person get my name? How did they get my contact information? If you're going to be referred to a law office, there's the State Bar website, which you can check on the license of an attorney. If you're going to be referred to a medical provider, if you're going to be referred to a chiropractor, check the medical board, check the Board of Chiropractors website, see if they are properly licensed and if there's been any enforcement actions against those individuals. Those are just the few things that you can do initially from the onset. There's absolutely nothing wrong, again, with seeking out medical treatment. It's just making sure that if you are going to a medical office, that they are properly licensed, and if you're going to a law office, that you're being represented by a legitimate attorney who has a valid State Bar card.
Do you have some examples? Yes,
we've had here in the Bay Area several investigations that we've worked. One of the cases that we had was an individual who was working at the emergency room of a hospital, and this person would see medical reports. When they saw the medical reports, this person would sell that person's information to a law office, to a medical office, and then receive a referral fee for those referrals to those particular offices. And so if there was an injury and the person was seriously hurt, they saw a big dollar sign behind that person's name, and they would sell that person's name to these various offices.
Wow.
That case actually resulted in the arrest of, I think it was 10 people, including 2 attorneys who both ended up losing their bar cards. So can no longer practice law anymore.
Well, I would think so, yeah. And how can consumers protect themselves from that? I guess the same as you pointed out before.
Exactly. It's easy as checking the State Bar website and checking a law office, checking the attorney's bar card to see if in fact it is valid. And asking to meet, because what we will normally see is that some of these law offices are not actually run by the attorney. It's run by the capper, by the ambulance chaser. And so you might go to a law office thinking that you're being represented by an attorney, and you will never meet the attorney. And in some of those situations, we will see where a capper will either recruit a very young attorney who just graduated from law school, just got their bar card, or an older attorney who's close to retiring, and basically set that attorney up in an office and advise the attorney, I'm going to pay you a monthly income just to basically use your name and your bar card, and I will handle all the cases. And so if you visit a law office and you never see your attorney, or you don't see an attorney and you ask to see them, that would raise a suspicion.
So the capper himself is not necessarily an attorney.
Exactly. We see with cappers, there's varying degrees of cappers. You get the most sophisticated cappers are those that actually set themselves up in a law office and pose as an office administrator. And so you go to the law office, you're referred there, and you're told, you never need to meet with the attorney, I will handle your case. The attorney is only here if the insurance company is going to refuse to pay the claim out. And you will deal with no one other than this office administrator, who in fact is the capper who secretly owns the law office.
Do you have any other examples of medical offices or just capping in general?
Yes, with medical offices, and I'm glad to report that there's only a very small percentage of these medical offices that are practicing these unscrupulous activities with insurance fraud. But a big part of it is also the pain and suffering, the bodily injury claim. And if you go to a medical office and it seems that the concern is more about how many visits, how many treatments you are provided versus your well-being, your care, that should raise a red flag. And if they try to get you to administer or go through any sort of treatments that you don't think that you need, it's okay to go get a second opinion. Go see your primary treating physician and have yourself checked out first before, again, going to see, let's say, a medical provider that you were referred to by, let's say, this marketing company. Should you choose to, again, like I mentioned, there's nothing wrong with seeking medical treatment or legal representation. It's just taking those extra steps to make sure that you're going to legit businesses.
Under duress, a person could fall for that. You think, I don't have an attorney, or I don't know what to do now?
Absolutely. And even like now with the fires that we've gone through, the fire disasters, there's folks that are out there taking advantage of these people that have been victimized, and they just want someone to help them. Yeah. And so it's the same in the auto arena. Somebody is involved in an auto collision, and they think that somebody is actually interested in helping them with their claim. And an insurance claim, we all know, can be a very frustrating, very complicated process, and if somebody is there basically telling you, I can help make this process easier for you, it's like that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, yeah, it probably is.
That makes sense. Well, thank you. Thanks so much for talking about it. It's certainly eye-opening. It's astounding to hear about this.
Yes.
I'm glad you're telling people.
Absolutely. When we do outreach and training to most of the general public, when I first started with the department, we had no idea that this organized crime, as we call it, was out there. But it's prevalent. It's up and down the state. We see it here in the Bay Area. We've had several big cases that we've investigated here. And again, it's if you are involved in a collision, someone calls you saying that they want to represent you or send you to a law office or to a medical office, that bell, those bells and whistles should go off. And it's, where did you get my information? How did you get my information? You just don't come about somebody's information, randomly on the World Wide Web.
That's good advice. Yeah, we consumers need to know about this for sure. Yeah.
And just to add to that, just really quickly, the biggest loser too is the consumer. Because on a lot of those claims, if you look at how claims are normally administered, and Captain, I do believe you did bring an example for our viewers to see how a legitimate claim can be administered. And we're just going to use the thirds example, right?
Exactly.
So let's say a third goes to the client who's hurt, a third of the claim goes to the attorney, which is normal, and a third will go, let's say, to the medical provider to cover the cost. On a kickback scheme, that's not how that's going to be paid out.
No.
And the claimant who actually got hurt, and the insurance is really supposed to go to them in large part to help take care of them and take care of their medical costs, they end up with very, very, very little. And a lot of times they don't even know how much the insurance company paid.
Exactly.
They're being lied to. They don't see any paperwork. They don't know what's going on. And what these folks are doing is they're paying more to themselves, and then they're kicking more money back on the back end too, which is our second exhibit that we brought with us. If you can kind of explain
Exactly.
how that works, so people can kind of just have a visual.
And I'm glad Nicole brings that up, because here it can be a very complicated process. And normally with your everyday insurance claim, as Nicole mentioned, it's a third split. So if there's a law office, if there's a medical office, and then the victim, the insured, it's usually a three-way split. And so each person will receive a third of the settlement. So in a situation where you have, let's say, a nice round number of $9,000, so the medical provider would receive their $3,000 for medical treatment, the attorney would receive their $3,000 for legal representation, and then the insured for their bodily injury, pain and suffering claim would receive $3,000. So it's basically the 1/3 split. That's in a legitimate insurance claim. With a mill or one of these schemes involving a capper, what they will do is throw that 1/3 out the window, because what the medical office is and the doctor or the doctor office or the law office, they're in it for the money. The capper is in it for the money. So the insured, the victim, ends up being shortchanged. So they will not see that third. They might see a fraction of that. So using the same example, $9,000, most of that money goes to the capper for the referral fee to the medical office and to the law office. So that insured who was in a legitimate collision on a $9,000 claim, they might walk away with $500 or $600. And normally what will happen is that capper will not advise the insured what the actual settlement amount was that the insurance company paid. They will merely tell the insured, all we were able to get for your claim was $2,000. So if we split to $2,000, in thirds, here's your $650 or $700 worth. And that's why, again, as a consumer, you should see your settlement. You should see that demand package that goes from the law office. If for whatever reason the office administrator or the lawyer is telling you you don't need to see that, it's your right to see that.
Mm-hmm. So if you think, hopefully you think that something like this has happened and you want to do something about it, then what does the person do?
They can contact the district attorney's office, because Nicole works out of the insurance fraud unit that investigates these cases, or you can contact our office, the California Department of Insurance, and we work with Nicole and her office investigating these folks.
Right. So even if you suspect it, and it might not be so, you should do that. You should follow up.
Absolutely. Again, if it sounds like there's something fishy going on, if for some reason when you're asking questions of your attorney or your medical provider and you're not satisfied when you walk out of that office, and again, those red flags are going up, then please contact the district attorney's office or the Department of Insurance. And if you feel that you've been a victim of insurance fraud, you can file a complaint and we will look into it. When I've done outreach and training to the general public and we talk about staged collision scams and I explain some of the schemes, I've had people after the presentation tell me, I think I was a victim of an insurance scam. I was like, is it too late to investigate? And absolutely not. Please give me the information and we will look into it.
Right, and our statute of limitations is up to 4 years to when it's brought to law enforcement's attention. So don't ever assume that there's not enough time. We want to know some of these practices are extremely dangerous. There have been cases in the state of California where they have used faulty medical devices for surgeries. There have been cases where they have been running clinical mills where they're billing that they're seeing 40 patients in one day. A doctor cannot see and give quality care to 40 patients in one day. There's prescription fraud as well, where they're over prescribing or they're providing specific prescriptions because they're going to get a kickback on the back end for prescribing certain drugs. There have been cases where there was one case study where a victim was x-rayed over and over again, and unnecessary radiation. These are practices that endanger the health and the safety of patients in the community. It is very serious. These are felonies, and we do take them extremely seriously, and we want the public to just be aware. As the captain said before, the majority of doctors are extremely, safe, and they take that oath very, very seriously. Most attorneys, do what they're supposed to be doing within the practice of law. This is a very, very small minority, but it can be very dangerous. They are capping in poor communities. They are putting out leaflets to say, hey, if you've been injured, get some quick money now. And they got pictures of people holding giant checks like as if they won the lottery. They are targeting the Latino community with these Spanish leaflets, trying to get people to just sign up. People sign forms, they sign releases, they sign away their rights. They don't even know what they're signing, okay? So it is serious. It's happening throughout the state of California. There are cases that are being prosecuted that are worth millions of dollars of fraud, and this type of white-collar crime really does hurt people. So we definitely want to know, and we want to help people, and that's why we're here today is to get that word out.
Oh, this is good. Yeah.
So,
what is it that you do at the district attorney's office?
I'm a deputy district attorney, and I'm in charge of the insurance fraud unit. Which prosecutes all of the insurance fraud that's in the county of Marin that primarily deals with workers' compensation fraud and automobile insurance fraud. So I do work with our captain here hand in hand with the Department of Insurance, and any suspected fraud that is occurring in Marin County, those cases are investigated with the Department of Insurance and our captain's team. He has a team as well of investigators that work with our inspectors. And then once they have completed their investigation, it's then brought to my attention, and I review the case and decide if we can prove the allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. And if we can, I file the case in criminal court, and I'm the lead prosecutor. And we will then prosecute that case in criminal court and proceed. And it's for our jurisdiction of Marin County.
And can you explain to us what is the underground economy?
Well, the underground economy is an interesting development that's really become a more pervasive part of our white-collar fraud division. It's really grown. So insurance fraud now is not just about claimant fraud and defrauding insurance companies in the traditional way that we used to see many years ago. And really the underground economy is about an entire economy that's out there that is based upon employers that are not following the rules. Okay, so what are the rules? Well, in the world of insurance, the rules are you need to have workers' compensation insurance for all of your employees. Okay, and everyone has to pay the premium for it. You have to tell them how many employees you have, what their job classification is, and you can't lie about it. And if you do lie about it, then you're committing a felony. It's premium fraud. And You have to pay your taxes, you got to pay your EDD for your employees for the state of California, and you have to pay minimum wage that's set by the state of California. You have to pay your workers for the hours that they work. Yeah. You can't commit wage theft, which we do see. That is a felony. That's actually grand theft if it's above $950. And you have to follow these rules. These are some basic employment rules. If a worker is injured on the job, you have to offer them workers' compensation. You have to allow them to file a claim. There are time limits. You have to offer it within a certain time frame. You have to post the notice that they have a right to seek a claim. You can't dissuade a worker from filing a claim and saying, Bob, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you, wink, wink, and just give you some cash, or tell you, I'll take care of you, and then not do anything and let that worker suffer, or threaten them, or threaten their job, or threaten to fire them, or threaten to call ICE. We see that a lot too with our undocumented workers. All of that is illegal. It's a felony. And a lot of the underground economy involves this type of behavior where people are not playing by the rules, and they are maintaining employees without insurance, without properly paying them, without paying the taxes, and it literally is an underground workforce. And we're seeing that in all kinds of industries. And it becomes this underground economy that supports our larger economy. And it's cutting the corners, it's cheating the system, but more than that, it's cheating the consumer, and it's cheating workers. And it's exploiting a large class of people, usually the poor, are the workers that really are suffering the most under this system. And you'll see it in all kinds of industries. I mean, we see it in farming and ag. We see it in construction. We see it in the hospitality industry. So your cleaning services and your hotels and your restaurants and your buffets and all of that hospitality services is like a giant wing, right? You'll see it in nail salons. You'll see it in home care facilities, home caretakers for your elders. We had very large cases in Contra Costa County. Had several of these cases where they were importing workers from abroad, and they were not paying their premiums. They were doing tax evasion. There are some cases as well that we've seen in the janitorial services. There's been cases basically across the board in different industries. And then a lot of these practices also at times can be tied into human trafficking, which is extremely serious and can land you in prison for years.
I'd like to ask, so if you're working, whether you're documented or not, you're eligible for workman's comp.
Yes, and this is really important for people to know. You can file for the Uninsured Employers Benefits Trust Fund if your employer does not have workers' comp insurance and you get hurt on the job. The other thing too is that if you're an undocumented worker, you still have a right to workers' compensation in insurance in the state of California. So people who get threatened, I'm going to call ICE, or you don't have any rights, that's not correct.
Yeah, people would presume without even asking, perhaps, that they could be reported.
And that fear is used by some unscrupulous employers to literally terrorize their employees. And it's not right, and it's not just, and we do prosecute those cases, as well as the wage theft that is going on from those people as well that work and that have worked those hours, that worked on those sites, that did the job, and then it's, oh, Friday comes and it's supposed to be payday, and guess what? Well, you know what, John, I'm going to give you your the rest of your wages next week. I'm a little short this week, and the next week comes and they still don't get paid. And these people are not being paid what they were promised. They're not being paid their hourly wage. They're not being paid overtime at all. And most of the time they never get paid what they were supposed to be paid. And as someone who is trying to be responsible, even just as a homeowner, if I hired somebody for a job and I gave you the check and we made a deal and I paid you, a few $1,000s to do a particular job at my house, I would expect that the men and women who are working on my site at my house are being paid. I would be outraged if I found out that these folks were not being paid when I just gave you a check per our contract for what you were supposed to be paid. I mean, I could not imagine having people in my home not being paid when I just paid this guy.
Right.
Right? I mean, that just makes it even worse. So, and it's happening. And Freda, it's very upsetting to me, not only as a prosecutor, but just as a human being. I mean, I don't like seeing people being exploited at that level.
So this is labor trafficking.
Labor trafficking is a little bit different. What I was talking about right now was wage theft.
I see.
So labor trafficking is forcible labor, where you are forcing someone to work, and you are doing that by force, fear, duress, or deprivation of their liberty. So it's human trafficking. So we all know about sex trafficking, but actually labor trafficking, they believe, and I did bring a chart to show you, they do believe that they think that is 3.5 times more prevalent in society than even sex trafficking. It is so incredibly underreported. And a lot of the ways that it gets done, it's done a lot of times with the immigrant population. Passports are taken, people are held against their will, they don't know where they are, they don't know the language, they don't know anybody. There's a bunch of people living in a room, their movements are controlled, their hours are controlled, they are paid very, very little or none at all. They have to work off their visa if that's what they're told. And it can involve violence, it can involve threats, it can involve duress, it involves fear, and they're not free. It literally is modern day slavery is what that is.
This is horrifying.
I hate to bring it down, but I mean, this is happening. And we do have to be responsible as a community to look out for these things. And if we suspect anything, to please contact your local law authorities. Always feel free to contact your local district attorney's office. If you're in Marin, please do call us. And of course, call the California Department of Insurance. I did bring that contact information. If you're going to move your loved one into a home care facility, contact the California Department of Social Services at cdss.ca.gov. Make sure that they're properly licensed. Go see the facility. Ask how many employees are going to be taking care of your parent, let's say. What are their hours going to be? Really ask detailed questions because you want to make sure that you're in a legitimate place that takes care of their employees, that things are safe, so that your loved one is safe and that they're well taken care of, so you can rest well at night knowing that you placed your family somewhere nice.
Wow, thank you for all this information.
Sure.
Who knew that white-collar crime could be so dangerous?
Yeah, it can, and I just want to be really, really clear. We're here to keep people safe and protected. That's what our career is about, and we don't want to see anyone be exploited and have their health and safety at risk in our community. So I really thank you for giving us the chance to be here today and to do this outreach to the community so that they can know what to look out for and to really be empowered to help stop these really dangerous types of activities, because they are crimes and they do hurt real victims.
Yeah.
When people hear insurance fraud, I think most people think that it's a victimless crime, but as Nicole has talked about, there really are many victims behind this. It's not some insurance company that's being ripped off. As we always say, there's a human element to it.
Thank you. Thank you for informing us about this. Well, it's time to go, so I would like to, say thank you to
thank you very much,
Deputy
Take care.
DA Nicole Pantaleo and Captain John Arguello. Thanks for being on Sounding Board. You can see archived Sounding Board shows on Seroptimist International of Novato's website, seropnovato.org. Thanks to Novato Community Television for producing this show. And I especially want to thank the viewers for watching.